Hello and welcome. Here we have Hannah Marie, author of Zelophehad's Daughters and Stories of Courage and Compassion. Hannah has had many achievements in her writing career, including a written homeschool curriculum, My Father's World, where she wrote different stories and skits. She is currently employed at Gospel for Asia's ministry, where they help millions of people across the world find the hope of Christ. So Hannah, how's your book doing?
It's doing really, really well. I was looking at numbers today, so as of the recording of this video, I personally have sold 94 copies of my book, which is incredible because it's only been out for 6 months.
Wow.
And as a team, me and my other anthology authors, and then our Amazon sales, and all of that put together, we've sold about 700 copies, which is also incredible because most of us are first-time authors. This is not a novel, and most novels don't do this well. Usually about 66% of the top of books from the top 10 publishers sell about 1,000 copies in their first year or less than, and we've already sold about 700 and it's only been out for half a year. So we're doing amazing.
So what initially drew you to do the story of Zelophehad's Daughters?
Well, to be entirely honest, it was kind of necessity. I needed a short story for my anthology. My first 3 short story ideas that I brought to my instructor, she was like, I think you have a 4th short story in you. So go come up with another concept, bring it back to me, and then we'll see about using that one instead of these other 3. So I had to come up with a 4th short story, and I was talking with my mom, and she suggested I do this one because it's biblical fiction. I write biblical fiction. It's about daughters, and I literally grew up in a house of 4 girls, all of these things. And so that's kind of how I got into it, because I needed a 4th story, and this one kind of fit all of the boxes.
So a lot of people ask, what of the 5 daughters in the story is your absolute favorite to write about? Because there are 5 of them.
There are 5 of them. And I only have 3 sisters, so I kind of had to make up an extra girl because I couldn't base just all of them off of each of us individually. But I guess I would have to say that the one I identify with the most is Makla, the main character. She's basically me, and I made her me on purpose because it's easy to identify with her that way. But I was just kind of imagining, if she was the oldest, what would that have been like for her? What would this experience have been like for her? And so she's the one I identify with the most because I had to step into her shoes to really imagine this story.
So I know that this story was so long ago. I mean, it's in the Bible. So what were the challenges you faced bringing these old historical characters to life in a modern story?
Well, one part of writing biblical fiction is that it takes a lot of research to really do it well. Fortunately, though, this particular story in the Old Testament has a lot of details surrounding it because God laid out for us exactly how the Israelite camp was mapped out and which tribes were on which side of the camp and all of those details. So it took a lot of reading and looking at maps and reading study Bibles and commentaries and things, but I was able to actually see, well, if the girls are in this tribe, then they would have been on this side of the camp, and then the sun would have been rising over there. All of those details that really bring the story to life. So that was cool, but it was also something that took a while to kind of think through. So that was one of the challenges. Another challenge for me, and the reason I didn't actually initially want to do the short story until I had to go back to the drawing board and do it anyway, is I didn't feel super connected with these girls and their story. The thing that connects me to a story is when I can see the impact that the character had because of the courageous thing that they did. And I could see that what the girls did must have taken courage, but I didn't really see how it was that big of a deal for them to get their name and their dad's name on the census, until I realized that this was actually setting precedent for a whole nation, and that the Lord actually said, the daughters of Zelophehad are right, which, how many times does he say that about someone? So that was huge. So just getting to connect with the story, that was a challenge for me initially, but in the end it ended up being such a gift to be able to step into this story and realize how much courage they had to show.
Yeah. So how did you approach reimagining these ancient story to a modern audience? Because not many people like this kind of artwork of story writing. Most people like just modern books about modern things.
That's a great question. For me, these are just real people. I mean, yes, they lived thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, but people are people are people. And maybe they didn't have phones or laptops or cars, but they had sister relationships, and they had grief, and they had joy, and they had challenges and things they were afraid of. And so getting to dig into that and just imagine myself in their shoes, and then hopefully helping my readers imagine themselves in these girls' shoes, that's what enabled me to bring the story to life, even though we're not the children of Israel and we, don't live in the wilderness right now.
Yeah. So your book has been out for 6 months now, and a lot of people have reading it. And how have you seen your book impact people so far?
It's been really exciting for me to get to hear back from people. Some of the things I've heard is that the story is really appealing to people, even people who don't normally like biblical fiction because they don't normally like how a biblical fiction story treats the Bible. They are really appreciating the respect and the research that went into this story and just the ability of the story to bring it to life for them. And so that's been really cool to hear back. People are appreciating even the biblical fiction aspect of it. It's been really neat to hear how the story has brought to life these girls that you don't ever really hear about, but it's making it possible for people to see those names that are just mentioned a few times in the Bible and realize, oh, those were real people, and kind of imagine those stories. And then it's also just brought courage to people, reminding them that God sees them just like he saw these girls, and he will provide for them. So those are some of the things that really excite me.
As you know, it's a new year and new things are happening, which means new stories. And before this, you were telling me that you have a new novel that's coming out. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I actually have 2 novels that are in the works. I can't quite say when they're coming out because I don't have a publisher for them or an agent or any of those good things that I need in order to get them published. But I can say that they're in progress and I'm excited about them. Project Sanctuary is the farthest along. And it's already been through a round of edits, and now it's in its 2nd round of edits, I believe. So I'm working through that and getting that to the next level. I also was able to send the first 3 chapters of that novel to an agent who was interested in potentially working with me on it.
Wow.
So that means that Project Sanctuary is moving toward publication. It's an up and down journey, so we'll see what happens, but that's where that's at right now. And then my new novel is codenamed Project Restoration. I can't share the titles of either of them. That's why they have code names. But Project Restoration is a baby project right now. It's actually the very first novel I ever wrote in the author conservatory, but it needs a lot of work. So it's kind of like when you have a house, but the house really just needs to be redone. So I'm kind of tearing the house apart, but I'm leaving the foundation because the original idea for the story is really awesome. It's just the execution needs a little help. So I'm gonna start rewriting that actually this month, Lord willing, in January. And then from there, I actually have a manuscript assessment with an editor scheduled for the month of July 2025.
Wow.
So I have about 6 months to get this project totally revamped. So those are my 2 novel projects right now.
You better get the house built quick.
I know.
Thank you so much for being here, Hannah. It's such a great opportunity to talk to you about your book. I'm so happy that you've been publishing all these things, that you're making a real difference in the writing world. But if there was one thing that you could say to young writers anywhere, what would you say, like advice?
One thing. I think I would say, don't give up, which sounds very cliche, but here's what I mean. Don't give up, because if writing is a gift that God's given you, which it is if you're writing, he gave that to you, then it's worth pursuing. So keep asking him to provide opportunities for you to keep pursuing this gift that he's given you. It's worth pursuing, even though it's hard, even though sometimes it's like, how do I even work on this? And as you keep asking him and seeking him in that gift he's giving you, he will open the doors you need to really let that gift blossom and be a blessing to other people as well. So don't give up. Keep pursuing that good thing that he's given you and watch what he does and the doors that he opens for you.
Thank you so much. This was so fun. Also, if you want to buy Hannah's book, you can go to buyhannahmarie.com and order her book, which is now available. And we will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.